This is Greg Reese with the Future Forecasting Group. I was invited to come on and talk to members of the Future Forecasting Group about what some of them are saying is the most significant remote viewing session that they've done in their history. And this is on the Los Angeles fires. I know very little about it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. But the session that they did was in 2020, and it seemed to completely successfully remote view the LA fires that we're seeing right now. So, with me today is Dick Allgaier and Edward Riordan. Dick, how are you? Could you tell me more about this? It was a blind target, correct?
Yeah, good to see you, Greg.
Good to see you
The,
too.
when the I've been watching the fires over the past few days, and yesterday I went. We do so many targets. We've been doing this for 7 years now, and we do a project every week. We pump out a lot of material, and I saw this. What prompted me was I saw the scenes in Southern California, and it jogged I go, I've seen this before. I drew this. And when was that? So we put our researchers on it. Didn't we do a target on LA? And we had some disaster in LA data, and our archivists gave us all the raw sessions. And so I got Edward on the phone and said, "Hey, Edward, did you see this work we did? It's pretty significant." How you doing, Edward?
Good. And I think my response was, I don't remember. We've done so many, I can't remember it. So we got to go back and look at it and find out. But it's another one of those interesting things for us since we've done so much work since 2018 on these targets that in these locations. And the interesting thing is that the locations are specific that end up being in the future, the area where some disaster happens, like the North Carolina target that we did that we just got feedback for when the hurricanes ran all the way up there. This one, the LA target, where we had the fire data and all that kind of stuff, and now that they're suffering the worst disaster in history there. We had the target we did, I think it was sometime in 2019, to look at the Macy's Day Parade in New York, and none of us got any people. It was all abandoned streets, and that was before the COVID thing even hit. And so I think it's a combination of a a significant insight coming in for both the taskers and the viewers for the specific locations they're choosing, and then the type of remote viewing that we're doing, where we're all kind of going, I don't know where the inspiration for this came from, but these specific locations are reflecting what we remote viewed, you know, we don't get the feedback for years.
Yeah.
And
So
it's pretty
this
mind
one
blowing.
was, we weren't told it at the time, but the tasking was LA specific. Let me give you the actual tasking. Now, we weren't told this. All we were given was, here's your target, X4I0-H7E1. That's randomly generated, and it's associated with the target so that we can have a double blind. I, to this day, Edward, don't know who wanted us to work this.
I have no idea. I don't, most of the targets we get, we don't even know who
This
they
may have
come
been
from.
suggested by one of our subscribers, or
Could have
it
been.
may have been our like tasking committee, but as remote viewers, we're kept totally out of the loop. Okay, so we're given a target, and it's X4I0-H7E1, and here's the tasking document that was showed to us after we did all our work. The target Q was Los Angeles, California, North America, near future. Now, in remote viewing, near future means out over the horizon. That can be anywhere from 90 days to 9, 10 years, 11 years. It is just in the future. The tasking was specific to the years 2019, 2020, and 2021. What we did is, without knowing that that's where we're supposed to look, our subconscious awareness said, hey, there's a big thing coming. It's a little farther out. So we went forward to 2025. So that's the setup. You with us, Greg?
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. So
I'd be
that's
curious
how we
as
do it
to-
here.
Yeah, I'm curious as to who gave you the target and how often do you get targets like that of like looking at a certain city in the near future or something like that?
You know, we did at least 8 or 10 of those, I think,
I was thinking probably somewhere around 10 over the years.
but they space them out, Greg, because to keep our double blind protocol, like sometimes it's a crypto target, sometimes it's a target in the past, like some historical figure like Napoleon. Sometimes it's a near future event. Sometimes it's graphic specific. Sometimes it's political or financial. And they keep us bouncing around so that we can approach the target like with no preconceptions.
Yeah, makes sense. So what did you guys see? I'm curious.
Edward, do you want to start?
Yeah, let me go through mine real quick and then we'll get onto yours.
The most stunning part, I thought, Edwards, was the smoke. He said, if you're here, you'll die. So
Yeah. Well, I remember that this is what I remember most about this session was that when I first started, I was like, oh, hang on a second. Somebody's looking at me. Doesn't happen very often, but I felt that, well, whatever is going on here, somebody's checking me out, man. So there was winds and places and all this kind of stuff going on. This is kind of low level stuff here. Mountains, terrain, and that kind of thing. The winds coming in, landscapes, and all that. Mountainous area, rocky area with mountains, stuff like that. This was a kind of a description of some of these things. Mountainy areas, that's going on. This was an interesting element here, a mechanical device moving around on or near the ground, turbo sounds hissing, doing something on the ground, causing damage, crashing, doing all kinds of stuff. Oh, this was interesting too. There was some people here. Places important to the tasking set up here like a base. People involved here, intense, no nonsense people. They're watching you as you watch them, picking up feeds, taking measurements, readings, something like a lookout mountain, and it felt geopolitical to me. But the intense thing was there was somebody above, and they were studying what was going on below, and the whole place was up in smoke and flames. It was just smoke and flames everywhere. The overhead surveillance guys were looking down on something. He had the breathing mask and all that. I don't know if they were military or what they were, but they're watching, taking temperatures, thermal calculations, and they're doing all these readings from up above, studying everything below. Let's see. Structure feels location specific, place marker, recognizable feature. Recognizable. What have I got here that's important? Possible monument. Just something historical. And then the smoke, or what it felt like down there. There's a smoke and there's dust kicked up. Difficult to see, difficult to breathe. Bad air particles in the air. And this was the most important thing: is you would die if you were here. You can't breathe. The air is very thick. It's dark. It's smoky. It's dusty. High energy, noise, rumbles and hisses. Reminds me of the rolling smoke of 9/11. Very difficult to breathe, and it was deadly. And stay away. It was not a pleasant situation, and it was under surveillance, and it was a bizarre session to go through. I think that's why I felt like there was somebody was checking me out as I was trying to remote view it. Like, maybe you shouldn't be looking at this, buddy.
Well, it's significant that you brought up 9/11. I'll just leave that hanging without
Okay.
comment. But
Did you feel it like from your session because it did read in certain like as if there was some type of foul play or something going on, like you were being looked at, a machine causing some type of disturbance. Did you get any feeling like that at all?
That was a feeling of it. When I look at the fires now and I look at that, I can see where they pieced together. But the session I remember was one of those sessions. It doesn't happen very often for us. It's very rare that you'll hear us say, I feel like somebody's checking me out while I'm doing this viewing. But sometimes it comes up and you'll hear us mention it. It just doesn't happen very often. That was one of the times where I felt it was happening. But it did feel like that. There was something down there um, disrupting or damaging the ground. The place went up in flames. There were military-esque people who were doing thermal readings and that kind of stuff from above. And it was a pretty ominous session.
The
At the time, made absolutely no sense to me.
the question is, and I know you probably can't answer that because we even slipped forward in time a couple of years past the tasking to see this, but that raises the question, like, what were those guys doing with the equipments and the readings and the monitoring? Is that monitoring it after or monitoring the conditions prior or while? You know, you can get conspiratorial on that one.
You can get really conspiratorial on that one. Yeah.
So we'll
Very
just
ominous
leave it.
session. It's
Yeah.
it's a shame what's going on over there. Let's see what you got, man. You hit it.
Okay, here's mine. Here's my low-level probes just to get a grip on the target. Complex, natural dynamic, complex, gaseous, airy, natural dynamic. Then I get to, there's structures and wind. Cement, hard, brittle, broken glass, wind, and then stillness, crunch, dust, pulverized, shards of debris and grit. So I'm just getting low-level data here, and then I get a little deeper into the target. I go, it feels mostly deserted buildings. They seem inert, like a ghost town. Debris has been pushed, broken material, earth and rocks, gouged earth, like a glacier pushed in, but not over eons. It happened rapidly. I don't understand what this is. How fast? And then I was at the edge of an urban area with a lot of buildings, but where I was, something had piled up. There were piles and piles of debris, primitive shelter made of some scavenged material. This is a large urban area, I realized. I see the grid lines of city streets, infrastructure seen from above. There is a thick gray pall over this, like a dense fog. Gray air blocks the sun. Over here at the left, this part is dark, no power. Many places have no power. Some sporadic areas have lights. Now, is that the fire or is that the areas with the lights? That's interesting because sometimes as a remote viewer, you don't know. I just get the visual, I go, well, it's something bright over there, but it's not over there. An energy event that flares up and intensifies, flashes, subsides, affects a geographical area. And I did a colorized version of that, the energy event. It's a big area and there's a lot of energy and it's glowing and flashing. I see a wide area of land in black and white. I can see boundaries that I know are counties. And note I drew the coastline over here. So they've got, and there are maps out right now showing the evacuation area by counties. So that's a significant visual right there. Cities, the structures don't seem normally inhabited. A person climbing, scavenging, a pile of rubble and debris, shards of debris. And so here's my best sketch. I see the buildings of this city in the distance, but the area around it feels abandoned, uninhabited. This is destroyed. It's just a pile of debris. Something's piled up. People are seeking primitive shelter. People scavenging for material for shelters. So that was the starkest image that I saw without knowing that it was Los Angeles in the future. But that, I think there will be an iconic photo that will come out. We need to watch for that, that will show the city of Los Angeles in the background and all the dust and debris.
Well, I think you're right. I think we've already seen little glimpses of that as well, too. Like it's very familiar looking.
Yeah, the fires are still raging, so they're not even done yet.
It may not be over yet. It may consume bigger. There are more winds coming. So we're recording this on, what's the date? The 13th of January, or late afternoon East Coast time. So we'll continue to monitor that. So here's the question. Well, or something we can just chew on. Remote viewers, we don't want to be accused of fear porn, like, oh, all you do is disasters. But they gave us this target that was Los Angeles. And 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, we essentially said large parts of LA are going to be destroyed by a smoke and energy event. I don't think anybody saw our work. At the time, if somebody would have seen our sessions, Edward, and said, hey, you guys predicted that LA is going to have a big disaster, I'm moving out, I wouldn't have been comfortable with that, actually.
Did you
No,
guys
I
publish
wouldn't.
that on Future Forecasting Group?
We published that on our private site. I don't think we put it out, but we have
That
a
was- yeah,
ironclad record that we showed that to subscribers. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the crypto viewing.
Yeah, at that
era.
time, the site was called Crypto Viewing, but we have it all time stamped and we have records of it, and yeah.
I think that the interpretation of remote viewing results is a topic that really needs to be explored much further, because the notion of fear porn and other remote view, I mean, unfortunately, remote viewing has been damaged over the decades by UFO fanatics and doom prophets, people who making money off of doom, like Ed Dames kind of stuff, really damaged the remote viewing in general. But what we're doing is we're not saying we're going to put results out and then you pay us to tell you where to go to be safe. That's what they tried to do back in the day, and they made a big mess out of remote viewing. We're not doing that. We're getting blind targets. We're working them. Something significant comes in. Even if we work on something with a cryptocurrency, we're not saying we're not asking you to do anything. These are our remote viewing results. We're showing them, we're putting them on display. Make up your own decision. We're not telling you what to do. This is what happened. This is what we got, and we'll see what happens. And with a lot of our work in these realms, we see the results sometimes years later, when they actually happen, So.
Hey, Dick, I noticed in one of your recent remote viewings that I saw, I don't think it was recent or new. It was just one that I recently saw. And you were honing in on like the character's personality. Like you could there's a lot of empathy, it seemed like, that you were getting. It seemed like, I don't know if that's normal for you. Did you get any empathy with this viewing? Like any feeling, like Edward got a feeling of it's not safe from the smoke? Did you get any unpleasant feelings of on the ground?
Yeah, it would have been shock and disbelief. Like I was more big picture on this target. I didn't really look too much at individual people, but the sense of they need shelter. Like, where are we going to stay? We need to put up a tent. We need to, like, here's a piece of like corrugated metal. We can use that to shelter from the rain and cold. So it was more like shock and survival was what I got.
It is very interesting. Like you were talking about in the beginning, how the target was more for 2022 or something like that, and you guys weren't right on it. But it does make sense, because if you're looking at LA, which is a pretty dramatic place throughout all of history, does look like you guys honed in on what would make sense that you would see, right? If you were looking at that, this is still an ongoing event in it.
The way I describe it, and Edward, maybe you have a different visualization of how this works, is when you're doing future targets, in consciousness, there is no delineation between December 31st, 2001 and January 1st, 2000. There's no numerical calibration. In consciousness, it's just a smear. It's just like, it's this environment. And so we're here and we're looking forward. So they task us to look just barely over the horizon. But this event in Los Angeles is so big that it flares up, and it has what we call, and we call it luminosity, and it's kind of an unfortunate term because it's a fire, but big events have more luminosity. We call them like you recall this one, Greg, the Hamas attack in Israel. We got that. We were doing a totally different target, but that event had so much luminosity that we were drawn to it. So this dimension, and we're within it, and we're tasked to put our awareness out and hopefully get a specific event. But if there's all of LA is burning down, we're going to be drawn that. But it's very easy, and it's well known in the history of remote viewing that remote viewers slip about in time like effortlessly.
I do agree with that. And if we're going to, I'm of the opinion that if we're going to sit down and remote view something, given the gravity of what we've come together to do, and what I see Future Forecasting Group is from its creation, is we're going to be, what's going to typically happen for us is we're going to find the thing that's important, and this is an important one. That city's over. You know, it's terrible. We're not going to be like, I see, you know, a parade down the middle of LA and everybody's happy. That's not what's important. What's important is what is happening now. And I'm of the opinion that is what we were drawn to. And in the other sessions that we've done that were like this.
Important also, like I get the impression from both of you that you think there is something maybe behind it other than just a natural event, and the fact that it was being monitored suggests that there's some importance to it that's not exactly clear. And it would also make sense. Is that what you were saying? Like, it's not just the devastating event that brought your attention to it. It was also the surrounding mysteries.
Well, there was no water in the reservoir, so they had no water pressure. The people in charge of, they know that there's fire danger, and they have all this dead brush all around everything. They don't clear it out. So they don't clear it out. They put people who are incompetent, yeah, I said it, incompetent, in charge of fire, water management, forest management, management of the city, management of the state. They're all incompetent. So those people were put in place. The reservoir was drained. There was no water pressure. The response was inadequate at best. So not to be conspiratorial, but I've spoken to our other sources. They wanted to get those people. They wanted them out of there. They want that land. They're going to do something else with it. There will be a new Los Angeles, and this is the way it's being done. Los Angeles will never be the same. They can't. You know how long it'll take to rebuild that? And where's also the insurance companies? The insurance companies are going to be wiped out by this. So if you have insurance, it's going to be more. Or what they do is they clear out the land, and then they say, well, we can't insure this for fire, so you can't rebuild. So someone really rich comes in and gets the land. Okay, here's the scary part, Greg, and there's other data that we can show later. I also had data on an earthquake and tsunami. So this may not be the last disaster for the LA area. There's, um, we can probably do a separate segment on that. We're
Oh, was
in
it-
we're in the shit, man. This is the times.
Yeah, well, it's not about fear porn. It's just about trying to get a barometer as to like which way the wind is blowing these days. A lot of the research that I've been seeing over the past few years points to something happening to the United States geographically that the powers that be somehow know about, and this would explain the whole Greenland thing and the whole all this consolidation. Uh,
Mhm.
and so as soon as this LA thing happened, the first, wild conspiracy theory thought I had was, well, they'll probably rebuild inland then if they're, if they're expecting all this catastrophe to come. And then sure enough, I looked into it and they've already been doing it. They've been rebuilding Hawaii like a few years ago, starting in New Mexico and Arizona. And so
Yeah.
strange times.
Okay, excuse me. Let me show you guys a graphic, and I don't know where this is from. I don't read Latin. This is a prophecy that has to do with it's scorched earth. This is in Latin. This is very old. I don't know the provenance of this, but you see the angels up in heaven. Los Angeles is the city of angels. So you have angels, you have heaven, and then you have these entities blowing, making winds and fire consumes the land, and the people are having to move off the land. So scorched earth, this has been the way civilizations have been rebuilt going back to Rome. You burn a city down and then you have to build it with a new blueprint.
Well, it's a
So,
farming technique, isn't it?
called scorched earth.
Speaking
Scorched
of
earth.
Lahaina, I was thinking about the Lahaina thing. Let me just share this real quick because the Lahaina happened. This was from our world events for July of last year. And I had this, scorched earth event. So when we went through July, and this was for July, I was like, oh boy, I'm seeing this scorched earth thing. This fire. I mean, the whole thing is just burnt to pieces. But nothing happened in July. It happened August 8th or whatever. It happened like 6 or 8 days outside of July. So it gets bypassed. Well, it wasn't in July, so just forget about it. You're
Well,
off or whatever.
yeah, that's like I said, in consciousness, there's no July 31st, August 1st. It's just near future. It's just this smear of consciousness. So it was near future if it's within 90 days. But yeah, big
The
events like
most
this
significant
pick up
thing, yeah.
sooner. So no fear porn, but I mean, I think my data clearly showed vast swaths of LA
It showed
destroyed.
LA that was the target, and that's what LA looks like, unfortunately, now.
Yeah, the drawings are very familiar, like I said, to everything I've been seeing online. So um, chilling.
And now we have a new target that we're working on, and we're double blind to it. I don't know who it's for or what it is, but we'll see what that one is. Do we present that Wednesday, Reardon? I think so.
I have no idea.
It's due in a couple days.
I have no clue.
This is fascinating stuff we're doing, and it's serious stuff. It's serious shit. So yeah.
It's amazing because like when something like this happened, like the LA thing, we go back and we look at the old sessions. It's like, holy crap, we did LA, and look at that. It was in flames and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, how do you react to that? How do you deal with that kind of stuff? And because when we're doing the session, It's like, okay, there's a big smoke and there's flames and there's monitoring it and then, Dick's there's the city and it's gone and all this kind of stuff. And during this session, there's no feeling of doom or dread. It's just, you just write it down. Okay, this is bad. Don't be around here. You can't breathe. You're going to die here. But it's not like I'm going through some kind of dire situation while I'm doing it. It's really not, the only impact is when the feedback actually comes to pass.
Yeah.
That's like the impact points,
Well, Greg, also, when we're doing this, when we're in the session, we don't know. Sometimes we pick it up by the surroundings, but this could have been a past event. Like
Yeah.
they could have been giving us 9/11 or Hiroshima, or it could have been some
Ancient
battle.
Egypt. Could have been
We
anything.
have no idea. All we do is go look and say, well, I see this. Wow, this city was destroyed. And Edward goes, wow, this is bad smoke. If you stay here, you'll die. And somebody's monitoring it. So that you're not omniscient on target. So
Yeah.
we didn't know it was a future target till they told us the feedback. Yeah.
And then then because it's a future target, we got about 5 minutes to say, oh, well, that's interesting. And then it goes into the pile of work because it's a future target. And we usually forget about it because it's always on to the next target. It's always on to the next one. It's always on to the next one.
See,
To dig it out when
I don't remember this, but there may have been a sense of embarrassment because 2020 came and went, 2021 came and went, and it was like, oh, we said LA was going to be destroyed by fire, and it wasn't. And then we go, wow, our data was off on that. Why did we see this giant pile of rubble surrounding LA? And then 2023 comes and we go, wow, we were really off on that one. That was a miss. Like, man, were we doing fear porn that day? What was up? And then we do other targets. And then this happens and we go, did we say that?
You know what's funny about that though is that people love Nostradamus, right? And it's like he wrote these quatrains 500 years ago, and people want to make them relevant now. And it's like, oh, okay, Nostradamus, he had to wait 500 years before a quatrain could be deciphered into something that could look like what he was talking about 500 years ago. It's the context of it, I think, For me, the bottom line is, we've come together, we look at important things, and if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, our important things are going to come through in our work. And we might not understand them when we show them, when we present them. We could think all kinds of things. We can misinterpret them, misunderstand them, discard some of them because we don't understand it. And in some circumstances, we just have to wait and see when it's going to become relevant for what we produced and what we experienced in those sessions. And it may just have to wait a while,
Yep. So there it is. We got feedback on that target and wrap it up, but still active. We'll see if there is an earthquake and tsunami there. Just putting that on the record because that data was also in there. So, and we've got that time stamped. So there it is.
Well, it's wild times, and there's I think, like you were saying, Edward, people have always liked Nostradamus. I think people have always been interested in these types of things. It's just that we're living through it right now, so I think people are getting a little tired and traumatized. So, but it's always good to have as much information as possible. I think that's why I value the information that you guys are coming up with.